Hey, I can't hear you, Rashid. No sound.
Now you should be able to hear me.
There you are. I hear you now.
Can you hear me now, Larry?
I hear you now. Sounds like a AT&T commercial.
Okay. Yeah. How's it going today, Larry?
Good, brother. How are you?
Um, I'm doing very well. I'm glad that you gave us a little bit of your time, and I'm gonna try to get the questions to you real quick because, man, you are a very busy man, and I'm just blessed that you took the time out to come back on the platform to
Uh,
share with us some of your thoughts. I mean, I'm really appreciative of that, and I just want you to know that
well,
because you
I
didn't have to
appreciate that,
do it.
man.
Um, um, there was an article that featured you yesterday in Sputnik News, and you were talking about Anthony Blinken and how his visit to Ukraine or his visit to that region signifies weakness. Could you elaborate on that for the people who may not have been privy to the article that you were in when you talked about that?
Yeah, it's really it's. I'm not sure I met so much weakness as desperation on the part of the United States. When I saw, I didn't get a chance. I did the interview in the morning, and then read the transcript of the press conference later in the day, and it was unbelievable. Blinken is delusional. He was pretending like things are going really well with Ukraine, and just the United States just needs to hang in there and keep supporting, while ignoring the the sum total of everything that is happening, both on the battlefield and politically for Ukraine. You note that just coincided with Blinken's visit. They fired Reznikov, the defense minister, for
Yeah,
corruption. We're told, yeah, oh, he's corrupt. And so, what are they doing with this corrupt guy? Oh, they're sending him off to London as an ambassador. Oh yeah, that's real punishment. Get to go, get to go to London for as an ambassador. How about jail? How about being prosecuted for corruption? How about having the money that you've stolen confiscated? No, none of that. So this was this is really all sort of prearranged theater, trying to shore up support for Ukraine at the very moment where it's losing decisively on the battlefield, and a larger number of people that previously were shouting about, oh, Ukraine is doing great and Russia's losing, they've fallen silent. There's still a few out there though that are insisting that, oh, Ukraine, we can see the light at the end of the tunnel. There's hope. They don't realize that light at the end of the tunnel is an onrushing train that's going to run them over. So it's ridiculous.
well, do you think that the United States was trying to signal something by his visit there and at the same time tested its nuclear capable intercontinental ballistic missile and at the same time reiterating more financial support for Ukraine, especially at a time when the people in California only get one time $700 payments?
You mean Hawaii, right?
Yeah, yeah. That's what I mean.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
always say I mean Hawaii, but it always slips.
Yeah, California, Hawaii, they're close.
Um,
Yeah,
um,
what we're looking at here is clearly Blinken's visit was designed to provide a public face to say, hey, the United States is still backing Ukraine. But all of this is coming against this backdrop of mounting problems in Ukraine. One, they're going to have to do a mass mobilization. So basically, anybody who's breathing is going to be dragged into the army. So there are guys who are HIV positive, guys who've got tuberculosis. They're going as young as 17. as old as 60, and actually they've gone older than 60. So that means guys like you and I, if we were over there, boy, they'd be snatching our butts up in a heartbeat. We'd be we'd, we'd be off to war. So and they're petitioning Germany, Poland, France, Romania. Hey, if you got any military-aged Ukrainians hanging out there, send them back to us. and and several of these countries are so sick and tired of these guys as refugees, they're happy to help. So they'll scoop them up, send them back to Ukraine, and then they're supposedly going to get training, which means they've been arrested in Poland. They're going to be sent back to Ukraine, and then they're going to get sent back to Poland to get trained, because Ukraine cannot conduct military training on its own territory. If they do, the odds are that the trainees are going to get blown up while training, because Russia can hit every single training base in Ukraine. So it is, and then the United States is doing what normal people do during spring cleaning. You go into the closet and you go, geez, I haven't used this for a while. We're getting rid of that. Yeah, that's what we're doing with the weapon systems we're giving them. Oh, let's give them, F-16s. Oh boy, yeah, that's a 50-year-old aircraft. It's not like it's the latest, greatest, most modern. No, it's 50 years old. But even then, it's just going to take them, 6 months to a year to get properly trained to fly them. And then when they fly into Ukrainian airspace, Russia's going to shoot them down. So, these are a lot of expensive but meaningless gestures.
Well, why do the people in charge in Washington continue to bam their head against the wall or beat their head against the wall, especially if they have a better picture of the geopolitical situation, the military situation, the political situation, and the economic situation facing America, Ukraine, and the West, vis-a-vis China, Russia, and the BRICS? Why do they continue to double down on failed policies?
Well, that's like, I don't know if you've ever known a degenerate gambler, but somebody gets out to the tables in Vegas, and they convince themselves, man, all I got to do is play one more hand, I'm going to win. And so they keep doubling down. They've already exhausted their bank account, and now they're into borrowing money from the house at exorbitant rates, which means if you don't pay back, some guy named Vito is going to come visit you and break your knees. That's exactly what Biden and team are doing. I mean, they are like degenerate gamblers. They keep convincing themselves all we got to do is just keep a little more pressure, and Russia's going to fold. And it's simply not true. But they're not able to step back and objectively look at the situation. I mean, that's what's so shocking. It is the facts are pretty clear, and yet people keep seizing upon, like for example, hey, they advanced half a kilometer around Robotina. Okay, yeah, that's not exactly the breakthrough that's going to take you to the Azov Sea, and yet they seize upon that and bam, they're winning. They're winning. This is more like if the St. Louis Cardinals they're down 15 runs going into the ninth inning, and they got 2 outs and got 1 runner on base, and they hit a single and brings him in. That's not exactly the sign of a major comeback. Okay, they got 1 run, they're still losing.
You in the chat, one of our channel members put in your link to Sonar 21, which I advise everybody to go there and read Sonar 21. Larry drops some heavy stuff a lot of the time, daily. But he emphasized one article that I just so happen to be reading, and let me see if I can pull it up real quick on here. And it's about Blinken and Western and many Western pundits still chugging the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
What could you elaborate on that article a little bit for the people who may not know what Mehdi is referring to on your website?
Well, yeah, I highlighted Blinken's press conference. He starts off by saying, "Oh boy, Ukraine is they're doing great. They've taken back 50% of the territory they lost, which is both wrong and misleading. They keep pointing to what happened a year ago when Russia had a very limited force to basically military police in the region of Kharkov, and the Ukrainians put together a fairly large military push, and the Russians withdrew. They didn't stand and fight, and they pulled out of that area. And what they pulled out of were largely empty fields, just vast fields that it looks like Iowa or Kansas or Nebraska, and so Blinken seizing upon that as, see, Ukraine's winning, and then insisting that in this now 3-month-old, it's over 3-month-old counteroffensive, that because they've advanced, probably the equivalent of 15 kilometers in some areas, that's a sign that the victory's just around the corner. The Russians started building defensive lines 3 years ago, a year ago, 3 defensive lines starting end of September, 1st of October. And these included trenches, anti-tank obstacles, such as they call dragon's teeth, barbed wire, pillboxes, firing positions, minefields. And what was fascinating is during that entire time of building those obstacles, Russia, to my knowledge, Ukraine, to my knowledge, didn't take time to try to attack or destroy those construction units. They let it go. Well, now they're running up, they can't even penetrate them. They haven't even really reached the first line and been able to penetrate that, and that's in 3 months. And they've lost, it's estimated as low as 60,000 killed in action, and maybe higher. So it's an enormous, think about this. In 3 months, the Ukrainians have lost more men than the United States lost in the entire time we were in Vietnam, and that was over 12, 14 years.
Wow.
So it's really, so my article was focusing upon, Blinken talking about, Ukraine's captured this territory. And then his other comments throughout the press conference, blaming Russia for the breaking the grain deal. Well, Russia's made it very clear. Until you lift the sanctions on the companies that do business internationally, telling the West this, we're not going to allow any more grain to come out of Ukraine, period. And that's the deal. Blinken insists that that Russia's trying to starve the world. It's just, the propaganda from these guys is just, to me, sickening.
Super chat sticker from Chung Ling Tong. Thank you so much. I want to ask you, are these people detached from reality? Because you hear the statements from Blinken, you hear the statements from Nuland, you hear the statement from the so-called National Security Advisor, and the statement that takes you to Pluto from Lloyd Austin when he says that Ukraine has penetrated the first line of Russian defense, and now they're on their way to the second line. When will reality set in if they are detached from reality?
I don't think it will set in, candidly. It reminds me of a conversation I had with my nephew several years ago. Now, this is a kid, he just turned 19. He had never played a down of high school football, never. He was skinny and not muscular, not an athlete. And, we were back, it was Christmas or Thanksgiving or something. And honest to God, he says to me, I'm going to try out for the Kansas City Chiefs next week. And I look at him, I go, what? No, I think I got a good shot of making it. Now, any attempt I had to try to tell him that was crazy, just, he wasn't going to listen. He had seized upon something that was so ridiculous, yet in his own mind it had become real. And that's exactly what we're seeing with Biden and Blinken and Nuland and Milley and Austin, the whole crowd. Bill Burns, the CIA. They literally have embraced a lie and they're not willing to let go of it.
But isn't that uh, detrimental to the U.S. national security?
So,
Because if they have embraced this madness, that can lead the world to thermonuclear war.
yeah, yeah, no, I mean, we're beyond playing with fire here, brother. You know, these guys are they want to glow in the dark. They keep. I've been impressed that I'll call it the patience of Russia. They're and the United States has viewed Russia's patience and caution as weakness. And boy, that's a mistake. You know, just because if you're hanging out with Mike Tyson and you just met him, and he's not very talkative, don't assume that that means he's weak. He can't do anything to you. You know,
Yeah.
you go start poking him in the chest, and you're gonna wind up with a new awakening, or maybe a new going to sleep. So,
Oh,
and that's
real truth.
that's what we're doing with Russia. I mean, we are provoking and engaging in a lot of tough talk that we can't back up.
Real Truth Talk says, what do you think about Seymour Hersh's new piece about Putin and Prigozhin?
Yeah, I haven't seen it. Did it just come out
I
today?
haven't. It must have. I haven't seen it either.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, I couldn't comment on it because I haven't seen it. Hang on for a second. Let me just.
uh,
I
okay.
can take I can take a quick
Medi.
look here.
Okay. Okay, that'll
Yeah.
work.
Let's see.
I haven't seen it either. That's the first I've heard of it today.
Yeah. Yeah. I haven't seen anything on it.
Okay. Medi says, Mr. Johnson, do you think part of the problem is that we who served during the Cold War were the last generation that trained to fight the Soviet Union? We trained for this war in Ukraine.
Uh, well, if whatever we trained for is no longer relevant. When the training that was done for in the 1970s, 1980s, it was all predicated upon an assumption that the then Soviet Union was going to come crashing into the West with tanks and then going through the Fulda Gap in Germany. Well, you know, that really I don't think that ever was a plan of the Soviets then, and it's certainly not the plan of Russia now. The whole face of warfare has changed. Number one, the presence, the it's like the Eye of Sauron, the intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance capabilities, ISR, can't escape that. So it makes it virtually impossible to assemble large numbers of forces without your enemy being able to, that's number one. The ability to use drones in both intelligence collection capability and a combat capability, that is a complete game changer. We're doing it on the Russians are doing it on a scale that we've never actually practiced or in fact I'm not even sure we'd be in a position to reproduce it right now. And then you've got the electronic warfare capabilities of Russia, the ability to intercept communications, the ability to send out signals that will deactivate drones from the Ukrainian side. So all the training that we did in the 70s and 80s is really irrelevant to what's going on now.
I mean, at home, America's fallen apart economically. Um, we see the BRICS expansion, and we even had Marjorie Taylor Greene saying that this is a threat to the United States. As a matter of fact, if I still have it, I wish I could just pull it up for you. Just a quote that she stated about the rise of BRICS. Oh, here it is, right here. On RT today, it was published September 1st. The title of it is "Rise of BRICS: Devastating for U.S." says Congresswoman, and she said it says the group can bypass the dollar, chipping away at Washington's economic dominance. And as BRICS gain momentum, the U.S. economy becomes weaker because the members of the grouping can circumvent American sanctions and trade in their own currencies, Republican Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene said on Thursday. Speaking to her constituents in Georgia, the Republican Congresswoman lashed out at the administration of U.S. President Joe Biden, which she said is turning a blind eye to the rise of BRICS, and an economic grouping which consists of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, and accounts for more than a quarter of the global GDP. The Republican firebrand claimed that while Washington is doing nonsense, including providing all kinds of support to Ukraine, which is locked in a conflict with Russia, there are other countries in the world, powerful countries, organizing together because they are tired of the United States. Then she says this, she goes and says this. In this sense, the BRICS countries are making serious trade agreements where they are saying, we'll buy from you, you'll buy from us, we don't care about U.S. sanctions, and we'll sell to one another, buy and sell in our own currencies, not the dollar. She says that this is one of the most devastating things that can happen to all of us. Why has this finally dawned on the Washington class that sanctions is unproductive and they have a boomerang effect, and the alienation of nations around the world would eventually force them to cooperate with each other to bypass America's sanctions?
Yeah, flat learning curve. Just not being very smart. Look at it this way. There is only one scenario in which sanctions work, and that would be this scenario. I control all the oil. Either you do what I say, or I'm not giving you any more oil. Okay, that would work. Or pick your product or commodity. If control it, or it's like, hey, I control the U.S. dollar. You either do what I say, or we're going to make it impossible for you to get access to dollars. Well, the problem with that is the dollar is not the only currency in the world. There are alternatives. Not necessarily great alternatives, but there are alternatives. And now what the United States has done is it's pushed Russia and China into a corner, and those countries are both big and rich, particularly Russia from the standpoint of natural resources. They said, hey, we're not going to continue to get pushed around like this. So yeah, we're going to create an alternative, and an alternative where the United States said, I'm not giving you any more dollars. Great, we don't need your damn dollars. Keep them. And that's what we're up against. By the way, I did manage to pull up, I guess, Cy Hirsch's article that Mehdi was referring to. Cy is intimating, is claiming that Putin had Prigozhin killed. I disagree with that. I think that's nonsense.
I do too.
That Putin's going to kill him on territory where it's going to be investigated, and he's doing that during the time that they're celebrating the 80th anniversary of the Battle of Kursk, and they've got Lavrov down at the BRICS summit in South Africa. No, come on. I have enormous respect for Cy, but I think someone's feeding him nonsense at this point, or he just, he's got it in his mind and is running with it.
So I hope that answers your question.
But back to Marjorie Taylor Greene. I mean, she's absolutely right. I for a while, we're living through a watershed moment in history. This is as consequential a change to the international order as what took place at the end of World War II. At the end of World War II, the United States comes out on top, financially, economically, even to a lesser extent militarily. At least at that point, we still were the only nation with an atomic bomb. And we proceeded to set up the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, the United. So we set up all these institutions that basically were going to provide us additional means for, influencing, controlling the world to the best of our ability. And, now Russia and China are saying, we're not going to be part of that international order that's, the U.S. calls it rules based. Yeah, it's our rules. And if you don't do our rules, then man, we're going to make you suffer. Well, you can get away with that for a little bit, but at some point people push back and fight back, and that's what we're in the process of seeing.
Now, I know that you're a busy man, so I'm going to pose a question to you, and then I'll get one or two questions out of the chat, and then we'll respect that you have other obligations. Eh, so,
Sure.
what is America doing with this Huawei, and how? Because it seems like they are panicking with the breakthrough chip of Huawei, and now you have one of the top congressmen saying that we should just altogether um, prevent all technology from the West going to the Chinese. Now, in the same statement, he admitted
Yeah.
yes, I know, that's what I laughed to. In the same statement, he says that they've done research, and yes, this is an indigenous Chinese chip, and then he says that we believe that it violated U.S. sanction laws. Could you make any sense of that? Because I could.
No, no. Hey, look, the reason Huawei did that is because the U.S. imposed sanctions. U.S. has been attacking the company. U.S. has been trying to shut it down, and they just said, we're going to go our own way. That like that old Fleetwood Mac song. You go your own way. And, it's our sanctions have actually produced this. I mean, this is what's so ludicrous about it, that the United States believes we're the best country in the world for technology. Nobody does it better than us. We are superb. Hey, which country in the world has had to, carry our sorry rear ends to the space station for 19 years? Oh yeah, that would be Russia, because their technology was better than ours. So the notion that the United States has an exclusive market and control over all cutting edge technology. Another example. How about those U.S. hypersonic missiles that we haven't created? Yeah, still working on that. Haven't fielded a successful one. Russia's got at least 2 versions, and they are combat deployed and been used in combat. So we need to wake up. Imposing those kinds of sanctions on Huawei just means the United States will become less competitive, not more.
Now, back to that. We have this 10-minute window, and I'm gonna try to get this in. Well, speaking of the hypersonics, everybody in the chat, if you have a question, quickly put your question in. I'll try to direct one or two to Larry. But speaking of the hypersonics, you and I are on the same page. America has not even fielded a hypersonic missile yet. So what is this reporting about the Zumwalt warship at dock being fitted for hypersonic missiles? Because it's not making sense to me.
So which warship is this?
The new so-called stealth warship, the one that broke down and had to be towed through the Panama Canal. I think it's called Zumwalt, something like that.
Yeah, no, well, you're talking a U.S. vessel, right?
Yeah. They're saying that this thing is being fitted for hypersonic weapons. So if the United States has no working or no viable hypersonic weapon, isn't this propaganda?
Yeah. I mean, I'm in, let's say, regular contact with one of the individuals who's the lead on the development of U.S. hypersonic weapons, and they're not in a position to actually test a viable product until the end of this year. It's still 2 to 3 months off. Yeah, so whoever's writing that is writing fantasy fiction.
No, good. Any questions? Because we have to let Larry go. He has a lot to do. So the first question comes up. It's the first question I'll pose to Larry. Everybody, so put your question in real quick. And I'm having a delay in it, so I know it's on my end.
Yeah.
And Real Truth Talk puts a link in to Larry's YouTube channel, so everybody go subscribe to Larry's YouTube channel. Also, Larry's always giving out that heat. I'm telling you. Again, Larry, since it's not a time, I don't think they have put any more questions in the chat. So I know that you're busy, and I'm going to let you go. Man, again, Larry, thank you so much because you didn't
Hey,
have to do
Rashid,
this.
it's always a
Hit me up.
pleasure,
Yeah,
brother.
I'll send you the link to the show, man. In a matter of a few minutes. Thank you so much, and I'll be in touch with you, Larry.
All right, brother. Take care. Thank you. Bye.
All right, be blessed, man. All right, bye-bye. Everybody, thank you for joining us on another edition of the most powerful platform for truth, bar none, on the face of the planet. Remember, I often say this small channel is your favorite channel's favorite channel. We get suppressed in the media, we get suppressed in the algorithm and in the search engine, but we're still here, and we can still bring you quality guests, and we can still try to give you the best. You know, with you see, Larry is telling you, you get it nowhere else. Larry told you that this stuff about fitting a hypersonic missile on this so-called stealth warship is propaganda. You got it first here. Thank you for joining us. Remember that if you can do good because it's the right thing to do, not because somebody's watching you. And remember, do better because you can do better. I mean, it doesn't have to be an open reward for you. Do it because you know God is watching you. Be better because you strive to be better, and try to be the best human that you can be. Try to be a better you tomorrow than you are today, and a better you the day after that than you are tomorrow. Okay? On that note, remember that I love you. We'll try to do another stream later on today. Know that I love you, but always remember that the true and living God will always love you best. Until we next speak again, stay strong, stay true, but above all things, stay righteous. Hey, mama, your baby boy loves you more than life. Deuces, everybody. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.